What's up, everybody? Happy early Halloween. I wanted to make sure I get in at least one more comic before the Halloween season is over. And it is Predator versus Wolverine. It's one of crap. I don't know how many they did so far, but this is like the first one out the gate when Marvel acquired the Predator and Alien licenses, where they were doing these mini crossover stories. And the first one that they did was Predator versus Wolverine, which makes so much sense, and we'll get into the reason why. But afterwards, they did one with Predator versus Spider-Man. They did one Predator versus Black Panther. Currently, right now, they're doing, I think it's halfway through at this point, Predator kills the Marvel Universe, which I wasn't a fan of. I don't care for the whole something kills the Marvel Universe, because I typically don't like bleak stories in general, but I think ever since Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, that was a unique thing. But just like with the Spider-Verse event, they kind of ran into the ground, and it's not a cool concept anymore. So something kills the Marvel Universe, I just generally don't care. And of course, I did read the first issue just to see, and of course, not a fan of it, especially that they practically nerf the majority of Marvel characters. Because slight spoilers here, the first people that because it's kind of like an anthology, well, not an anthology, well, it's kind of sort of an anthology until they got to Predator kills the Marvel Universe, where after Predator's interaction with Wolverine, then with Black Panther, with like the with the whole vibranium stuff, and it's like with Spider-Man, you got Kraven the Hunter getting tangled with the Predators, and then giving them lowdown information, or Kraven giving them lowdown information about Marvel characters, which majority of which he would not have known anything about, to give them some real insight on how to take them on. Primarily, he fights like Spider-Man. He might know about the Avengers, but there's no way he knows anything about Black Panther or the Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, or anything of that sort. It's just like, his knowledge is narrow. But right at the gate, you got the Predators. First thing they do, because since they got entangled with Black Panther, they ended up acquiring some small amount of vibranium, retrofitted their weapons, and then start going after. The first people they go after is the Guardians of the Galaxy, and end up murdering them. And it's like, there's no goddamn way, at the very least, there's no goddamn way that the Predators will ever maybe if they attack. Of course, they usually attack in maybe groups of 3 at most, but these are hunters and they want a fair battle. But it's entirely stupid. One Predator would not be able to take on Gamora nor Drax, because those two are just a different tier than the rest of the crew. Not saying they're slouches, but it's just, from right out the gate, it's like, okay, I'm not even going to entertain any further this, because the writers are nerfing, going to be nerfing a lot of these characters just to have some semblance of a challenge, or try to make things interesting. It's not interesting. It's going to be lackluster. But anyway, it's just like a tidbit of what is happening because I've been keeping track. But anyway, I want to just go with Predator versus Wolverine. So it's gonna be, back and forth of flashbacks of different points in Wolverine's time, tangling with a particular predator, and somehow, some way, he found out their species name is Yautja, which some might argue that doesn't make any sense for anybody, whether within the Predator universe of the films or in any crossover versus comics, because nobody's ever mingled with these species long enough to know what they would consider their alien name are, let alone where their home planet is. It's like Yautja Prime or something. It's like, there's no way you should know that. Anyway, we're in present day, and Wolverine is tangling with a predator, and he's in a very unique position that Wolverine has rarely, if ever, has been in. He is being hunted by, he's been hunted before, but not into this extent. This is something that is almost like a relentless thing that has technology way above anything that's seen on Earth. So he's, kind of mangled up, and of course he has a healing factor, so he's able to take some serious punishment. But even still, he knows he has to play this smart. Unlike any other foe he's typically used to dealing with, of course he strategized, but his brutal tenacity, more often than not, always seems to win him the day. He cannot, charge in like a bull here. So he is, pretty much on the run right now. And he's trying to hide out in his cliffside, where he is pretty much narrating his history of tangling with this particular predator. His first encounters when he was a lot younger, in the early 1900s, shortly after acquiring his mutant healing factor and his bone claws, and long after, he lost his family. This is before he lost his memory, way before he lost his memory. So he just kind of living in the wilderness. He doesn't travel in the into town unless it's for certain supplies or selling pelts or anything like that, just to be able to pay for certain things like alcohol or maybe certain tools, whatever. Just something that he can just pretty much live off the land with. He even shack up in a bear cave with a bear because he really doesn't want to be entangled with people all that much if he doesn't have to. But he does like this other small village with these indigenous tribe that taught him how to hunt and everything like that. He ends up going into town where he is met up by this affluent man who tells Wolverine. He heard stories about Wolverine and his capabilities, and he tells Wolverine that, hey, some kidnappers took my son. I need help getting him back, and I heard you. This is long before he coined the phrase "the best there is of what he does" kind of thing, but he's still pretty good. And it's like, okay, people say you're the one I can speak to that can help me out. And of course Wolverine, he doesn't go by Wolverine at this time, but nor Logan, so I think he still went by James Howlett before he lost his memory and just went by Logan. Of course, he has like a soft spot because he lost his father when he was young, so he kind of has like a soft spot. So he kind of decided to help out, especially after witnessing Wolverine being able to take on a whole bar full of miscreants who tried to like hassle him. At the same time, we see the Predator show up, and he sees that this indigenous tribe has killed a predator long ago. His body's pretty much like frozen over time. It clearly has been there for a long time. Because if you know the lore of Predator, given the films, they travel. This race was probably got some bit of longevity in their biochemistry as like unique alien species. They tend to like go to Earth, you know, maybe every generation or so, and find a particular point in a particular area on Earth and hunt like the best killers. And they go through different, you know, time periods. Here, the Predator finds this long dead Predator, take off this little disc throwing thing that, you know, opens up and has these blades that come out like a flying serrated disc, and decides to go on a hunt, taking on different like animals, but then eventually come across that tribe, which after Wolverine agrees to help this rich dude, they end up coming across their skinned bodies. They even, the Predator even skinned like most of the animals there, which is something that neither Wolverine nor that rich dude ever seen something like that before. It just kind of freaks them out. He even freaks out Wolverine a bit and saddens him because these people that he, you know, the rare few people that he actually enjoyed being around with, and he still remains on task, but this is something like is, you know, bugging him a bit. So you see like the part where like this Predator, he's a young Predator at this time, and of course if you watch Prey, you see Predators, the younger ones, build themselves up by taking on smaller deadly animals to the most deadliest of the animals, which is man. So Wolverine and the rich dude come across the cabin, which Wolverine at this time doesn't know anything about the Predator. He at this point assumes that these crooked people who probably are the ones who kidnapped this guy's son is the ones responsible, and gives him like even more reason why he doesn't want to deal with humans at all, and you just want to remain in solitude. And of course, once they come across this cabin, the Predator is watching from afar. Wolverine goes inside, starts messing them up, and then after he deals with the guys, the rich dude shoots Wolverine in the back, saying that, you know, he made all that up. He used to work with these guys. He used to be the leader when they was like, you know, robbing areas, and they decided to cut him out and leave him for dead in the wilderness. So he used Wolverine in order to sick him on them, so that way he can get his money back. But then immediately gets his head blown off by the Predator. So Wolverine doesn't know what the heck is going on. What is this thing? But he's young at this time, so he just went after it headlong first. Wolverine, as narrating, even knows that, I was still technically a kid then. I didn't know any better. I was headstrong in my youth, and he just went after the thing. He ends up clawing at this thing. Mind you, he has bone claws at this point. He cuts at this thing's throat, and Predator takes his spear and stabs into Wolverine. So they both are critically wounded. However, Predator doesn't know that Wolverine can self-heal, and Wolverine doesn't know that the Predator has an advanced med kit to kind of patch himself up. So Predator ends up going after Wolverine, but Wolverine leads Predator into the mouth of the bear cave, where the bear pops up, snatches up the Predator and drags him in the cave. Of course, Wolverine doesn't bother to check to make sure that this thing is fully killed. He just assumes it's done, because what's more deadlier than a bear? And he keeps that serrated disc as kind of like a souvenir. But of course, long after Wolverine left, the Predator kills the bear and takes its head. Then we end up fast forwarding to his time on Weapon X, and this part is straight up like the first Predator film, where it's like a group of military dudes in the jungle being hunted. Except these people are mutants with powers. Oh, and I neglected to even bring up, this is written by Benjamin Percy. There's been a few artists on this title that does different flashbacks, which I thought was kind of a neat touch here. T-Max is on a mission to neutralize this militant group with a wannabe dictator they try to take out. And he knows Wolverine at this point, a little bit older, has the disc around his neck. Predator, he fought before in the early 1900s, comes back, and I was like, this time he brought two other people. Remember, a lot of the times, if the Predator is bringing help, they usually hunt in threes, depending on the situation. But more often than not, they usually hunt by themselves. And of course, we recognize three, or at least two other, besides Wolverine, two other people, Sabretooth and Maverick. If you know your Wolverine lore, there's these two other people. Maybe they're legit part of the, because this is kind of like an Elseworlds kind of thing, mind you. But this woman and this little bat thing, I don't think is legit part of Wolverine's Team X history. But I imagine not, because I personally don't recognize them in any facets. So they just exist to be killed off, because you got to have some cannon fodder to show off some predator kills. And so, uh, we see one of them gets taken out by the razor net and turned to chunks. This lady who gets caught in a garrote wire and gets her head lopped off, clean through. Meanwhile, in the present, Wolverine is like diving into the water after the predator finds him, so he has to like, okay, I have to get away from this thing and regroup a little bit in order to finally take this thing out, because he knows this thing's been after him for a well part of a century. Like it hunts every let's give it like a decade at a time at most. And every time he comes back, he usually comes with a different strategy, because he sees Wolverine as like the ultimate prize. So, Wolverine, of course, at this point in Team Max's, memory has been kind of like, you know, mess around with. He doesn't truly remember this particular predator, but he still got his senses kind of like filling in certain blanks that I know you, but I don't know you, because I know I've seen you. I know I tangled with you. I just can't remember the context of the situation, but I know I gotta take you out because you're. All my senses are ringing. You're a freaking threat that needs to be neutralized. Uh, and you see, like, Sabretooth hidden, with like this giant, Gatling gun kind of thing. Kind of like, crap. What's this? What's his name? Poncho? The one in the first film, they got blasted through his chest. Uh, that's what they got Sabretooth as. Of course, they don't know Sabretooth also has a healing factor. He, takes out one while like getting stabbed by one through the back, but he manages to get in close and kill the thing before it falls unconscious. So now there's two left. And the one that Wolverine has to deal with is one who got like a scratch on his helmet from, I'm assuming, was the bear. Maverick gets wounded from an explosion and runs into some ruins where they come across the people they were intended to go after and kill, realizing some of their people has been murdered by these things. So now they gotta form an uneasy alliance, which is kind of like Predators, where these bunch of misfits, killers from different countries of origin and military background or whatever killing type of background comes in. It's like, oh, we gotta work together because we're in uncharted territory that we can't just deal with normally on our own. So Wolverine, being team lead, decides to make a decision. It's like, okay, we'll work together, but we'll do it under my rules. So they decided to set up a trap to get these things. One second. So whatever explosives they have, they plant it all around the place while leading the predators into a trap and blowing up the entire facility while they or the ruins while slipping out through the back. So Wolverine is left walking away thinking that he finally took out this sucker. And of course, this particular predator manages to survive. His partner obviously dead. And of course, the head of Weapon X, Thorn, something like that, Thorn something, picks up, joins evac to pick up Wolverine and Team X, who charged Wolverine into taking out this general. And of course, Wolverine lets the general go just out of mutual respect because, like, they have to work together in order to take this thing out. They probably wouldn't have survived without working together. So this is just kind of like, I'm not going to kill you. I don't even care at this point. We just need to take care of these things. You just go. Hopefully I don't have to come back after you again. Of course, Sabretooth and Maverick survived. There's the only 3 survivors of this situation. So some more time passed. And of course, back in the present, Wolverine fell into the water from the cliff and it's pinned down by these fallen rocks. Now, of course, if you know anything, or at the very least, if you know from Days of Future Past, because Wolverine's bones is coated in adamantium, it's heavy. And by the grace of his mutant powers, he's still be able to move like a normal person and handle the weight. Or at least got used to the weight. But he in the water without any way to get out, he will end up probably drowning because, or at the very least go into a freaking coma, because if he drowns with no way to get out of the water to fully recuperate, he'll just keep reviving, dying, because he'll just be in a perpetual state, because his heal factor will still be doing his job, but if he doesn't get his body out, he'll at most will have be in a coma in a sense. So he knows he got to get out before this thing gets to him. So he ends up cutting into himself in order to get underneath from being pinned. Now, it also works to his benefit because as the predator comes into the water, because Wolverine over time knew this thing hunts by infrared or heat signature. So he ends up clouding the waters in red blood, which blocks the senses in the predator's mass in order to slip away. Meanwhile, we flash back into the Weapon X facility, past the whole Team X situation, where they now are grafting the adamantium to his skeleton. And somehow, and this part was a little bit confusing because somehow this predator is able to track where Wolverine is. So he ends up killing the guards and the scientists while making his way inside this facility, where he sees this unconscious Wolverine and he looks at the monitors and cuts into Logan and sees that his skeleton is laced with his super dense metal alloy. So it's like, oh, this is a definite prize, because normally I take the skulls, but if I come back home with a indestructible metal skull, this is kind of like, bringing home platinum. So Wolverine wakes up and stabs into the Predator, but the Predator uses this kind of acid thing because that's usually used to dissolve flesh and hair from bone, so only bone is left, because how they usually have like a clean skulls. So the Predator uses it in order to at least neutralize, at least for a time being, Wolverine. Of course, he thinks he killed the thing. Now, normally, this is not something that Predator would, or at least Predators usually handle certain things, because they want like an honorable warriors type of kill when it comes to hunting. He pretty much is kind of like poison him in a sense while he's defenseless. But he knows this ain't no typical type of warrior he's dealing with here. So he acids Wolverine's face, takes his, of course he doesn't know he has a healing thing. Mutant healing is not something that will be known to Predators. So he takes his body to his ship, and of course Wolverine starts to become conscious and just going off on instinct, tears through the hull of the Predator's ship. And before that happens, because the Predator broke into this Weapon X facility, and of course this is like a off-site Black Ops type of thing where some of the US and some of the Canadian military has like a joint thing of this secret Weapon X project that's off the books. There's like, okay, somebody tore through our Black Ops site and take our very prized weapon. We're not, no, we're not allowing that to go. So they sent these fighter jets to go after this alien ship. And of course, the Predator takes off his mask and everything like that. And of course, we see in the ship there's like a trophy wall. One of the skulls there is a skull of a Rancor from Star Wars. So of course, just like with Alien and Predator, Disney, who owns Marvel, also owns Star Wars. So of course, I gotta throw that in there. You notice there won't be any alien xenomorph skull there, which is weird since there's a clear, obvious type of Predator 2 callback here, but you chose not to do it because you might think it's kind of hokey, or you don't want, at least at the time, don't want any kind of allusion to the failed Alien vs. Predator films, even though we know at this point in time, they're kind of building to that, try to start fresh with that. Oh, by the way, this is a perfect time for me to do this type of comic book review, because Predator Badlands will be coming out within a week from now. So, perfect timing for me to talk about this. But Wolverine ends up cutting his way out, plummeting to Earth, along with the Predator mask that was left to the side. And of course, the Predator, now realizing this, flies off, leaving his mask and his attempted prize behind. And of course, Dr. Thorn, or Torn, or whatever the guy's name is, ends up collecting not only Wolverine's body, but also the mask, which nice touch in the story where they retrofitted this thing in order to use it as a inspiration to the iconic Weapon X mask that Wolverine worn during his time in Weapon X. So, back in present day, because we're jumping a little bit, in terms of the timeline, where before Wolverine in present day is tangling with this Predator once and for all, because as Wolverine accumulated his memories, at least in this, Elseworlds type of story, he come to understand that he also tangled with this thing on multiple occasions throughout his history in different eras of time. This thing pretty, gets older, but his, biology slows his aging just like Wolverine's aging is slowed. But it's not because of a healing factor, it's just more so the fact that the Predator's biology is vastly different from humans. That's why they typically are very big. And they got different, chemistry than humans, obviously. He eventually finds where the Predator mask is and use it as bait in order to lure the Predator, because it's under some kind of lock and key, keeping it kind of like blocking for any type of signal getting out. But once Wolverine opens it up at the right time, he leaves it open as bait because he knows this thing will come looking for him again, but this time Wolverine wants it on his own terms and not when his pants is down. And he lies and waits until this thing eventually shows up, because it has to show up. He ended up waiting for a week before this thing eventually starts popping up. Then you do another flashback back in Japan, where Wolverine ends up learning the way of the warrior and trying to learn to control his rage. During his time in Japan, that's where he learned this kind of stuff. This is when around the time he fell in love with America and all this other stuff. He ends up kind of refining his skills. He learned under Muramasa, who invented the Muramasa blade, typically infused with a person's soul or some mystical means, that the Muramasa in Marvel canon is one of the very few things that can neutralize healing factor and could kill somebody like Wolverine, Sabretooth, and Deadpool permanently. But then the Predator shows up again. This time, because he doesn't have his mask, he ended up using the bear that Wolverine sicked on him all those years ago as a retrofitted mask to more so taunt Wolverine. And the Predator and Wolverine starts tangling with each other. Wolverine speaks to Muramasa, is like, can you use a little help here? And Muramasa says, like, I know this thing, wherever it is, has its sights on you. And consider this as another test. Because, either you die and I can forge your spirit and bones, whatever, into a new blade, or if you kill this thing, I'll do the same to it. But I'm not, this is your fight, not mine. You gotta deal with it. And of course, this is early on in his time in Japan. He hasn't kind of refined his animalistic nature to kind of recoup his humanity to a degree, refine it, you know. Uh, of course, as these two take on each other, with Wolverine using a katana, while, of course, this Predator using is a kind of, double blades. Wolverine, on the back foot decides, like, you know what, F this. He tosses the sword and starts relying on his claws, which in his teachings he had to, one of the things he has to learn is not rely on the animal, not rely on his claws. He has to learn the way of the warrior, to be civilized. However, the Predator suddenly just stops and leaves. And Wolverine is wondering, like, where are you going? I'm right here. Come here, right here. Come get me. Come here now. I'm here. But Miramas like, he's gone, Logan. And they look around and notice his hand ninjas surrounding them. And Muramasa points out, it's like, he's not here to take on your allies any more than he is to take on your enemies. You'll probably see him again, but right now we gotta deal with the hand. And of course, we're fast and forwarding back to the present day as we see what led up to, like, the first opening of the issue, where Wolverine is finally going head to head with this Predator in this last fight. And of course, he set up an obvious trap that he knows the Predator will see coming, but it's more so than a distraction in order to try to get a jump on him. And this part of the illustration is probably my favorite because I love this. Like, the pencil work of this is amazing. But of course, he ends up dipping out because the hand ninja is just like, And of course, it's like it's more of an honor kind of code with the Predators. Even though he could probably deal with, at least, we don't know how many hand ninjas are there, but he knows it's probably a lot. So it's like, he knows this battle isn't easily won. So he decides to come back another time. Then we fast forward into the early parts of Wolverine joining the X-Men, where this Predator shows up at the school, and of course, you get to see the three dots on Charles's bald head, which is kind of like, why would you not? It's like right there for you to do it. Wolverine pushes Chuck out the way before his head gets completely blown off. And the Predator sends, missiles at the school in order to drag out Wolverine. Of course, Wolverine has to go check up on everybody in the school, while the Predator is trying to get his prize. Now, once again, the Predator has no concept of the fact that mutants are a thing and they have powers. Things that will easily kind of rival any technology he might have, if not overdo it, or just overcome it. We see Nightcrawler comes in to help Wolverine and bam him out of here. Meanwhile, Wolverine is telling everybody, get away from me, do not help me, I don't need your help. He's trying to get everybody to safety, but of course, he goes to check and see if anybody else is in danger. He come across Rogue being held at knife point by this thing. And of course, he tells Rogue, do not touch him, do not do anything. He wants me, look, because he knows that any sudden thing, this thing can easily, take. I mean, Rogue is powerful, and I'm curious to know like what would because Rogue doesn't just absorb powers. It absorbs like she absorbs a person's um, uh, uh, personality, his memories. So I'm curious to know, like, okay, through the words of somebody with English, what what would Rogue kind of absorb and like can like we can get a better understanding of these predators uh through somebody we can actually have a conversation with. But I guess this doesn't really matter because like why we need to know or understand anything about this race other than the fact that they are honor bound. They like to hunt the best killer of killers. You know, that's pretty much it. So Wolverine surrenders himself because it's only after him. So the Predator lets everybody else go as he's taking Wolverine. And of course, one of the kids who not morph, but has a kind of similar abilities as Morph and Mystique, where she can change her appearance. This distracts Predator long enough for Kitty to like trip up the Predator. Nightcrawler, uh, disengage his breathing apparatus on his mask, and Rogue to like touch him in order to sapping a lot of his strength to the point where he had to cut and run. And it's like, yeah, of course, he will have no Predator will have any chance up against a house full of mutants with a variety of different powers, half of which are probably Omega or darn near Omega level skills. Um, I don't know about you. I consider like the Predator is kind of like a slasher type of villain. He's a scary villain. Predators are scary if you think about it. That's why I had to put it in the month of October. It's a scary figure that hunts people, or at least people it deems worthy of a hunt. That's skilled in combat and killing. So yeah, the Predator runs like a little bitch. So after this situation, because now he's not a loner anymore, and he found like a family with the X-Men, and they darn near got killed by this thing, which he knows will probably eventually come back, probably more prepared because he was prepared for a house full of powered people. He could, put them through that because he knows he'll end up blaming himself. So this is where is in present day. He decides to take the initiative, get the helmet, and set up a trap and fight this thing once and for all on his terms. So in a kind of turn things on its head moment where Wolverine, as he was getting out of the water, sets up another trap. Because the best way to deal with a lot of these predators is to outthink them, not try to rely on the gear, because the gear doesn't make the man. You have to outthink these kind of creatures because their arsenal is way above theirs, and they've been fighting for a long time. So they got like they end up learning certain strategies from other humans through the course of time to be better killers. So you typically have to outthink these things. So kind of, the whole Arnold with covering himself in mud kind of turned that on his head, where Wolverine ends up cutting out his own eyeball, sticking it on a human shaped mud, and place the eyeball on there to trick the predator, thinking like, oh, he tried to hide again. He stabs at this empty husk of a mud mound, and Wolverine comes out of nowhere and stabs this sucker. So they end up just cutting up each other, and Wolverine notates how, like, on some small level, these two kind of admire each other, but as they cut in, go in close to, try to finish each other off, the Predator sets his countdown meter, decides, like, to try to take Wolverine down with him at the very least, if you can't claim it while alive. Wolverine smiles, knowing is like, okay, buddy, let's do this. And the bomb goes off. Sometime later, Wolverine ends up reviving and finding the one last piece of the one last weapon left behind by this thing that is finally taken out as kind of like to remember this thing by, because as Wolverine kind of notes that, in an odd way, it's going to kind of mess him, because it's like having like a knife pressed against your throat, that knowing that this thing can always come out, least expected. But, it's just kind of like, matter of fact, let me give it like a good to read it word for word. Not sure how many days passed, but when I finally pulled myself out of the smoking crater, I felt like a lit cigar crushed out in the ashtray. There was an emptiness inside me. It took me a while to realize where it came from. I miss having him out there. Nothing makes you feel more alive than a gun pressed to your temple or the cold lick of a knife at your neck. So I was going to be a little deader every day I lived without him coming for me. At least he left me a dangerous trophy. I see my reflection in his blade. I remember its keen edge every day of my damn life. And that's the Predator versus Wolverine story. And I gotta admit, because I want to wait until I got through summarizing everything, out of all the books they did Predator versus of, and even up until the point of Predator kills the Marvel Universe, like I said, what I've read, this one is actually the better one, in my opinion, because it makes sense given the fact that these Predators come, every so often during different time periods, and since Wolverine aged so slowly, he can exist in almost every freaking time period. It stands to reason that he can tangle with these predators and take the punishment they normally can dish out and take out people with one shot. But Predator against Spider-Man and Black Panther seems like a good idea in concept, but in execution, it was lackluster. And it's like, man, you would think, especially with Black Panther, I expected more. It did not. I did not like it at all. Not as saying it's the worst comic I ever read. It's not that bad, but it's definitely below average. Both it and Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man was, I really did not like it because they treat like the Predator like it's some kind of serial killer, which I pitched this idea of a Predator movie set in like the 1800s where you think it was Jack the Ripper, but it turned out to be a Predator. It could work, but in terms of execution, I don't know. It could have been another Predator 2 moment, but it was not. None of it worked, in my opinion. Especially with Spider-Man, who doesn't kill. You gotta, in my opinion, you gotta pit Predator against people who would, in the Marvel universe, who has no qualms of killing. Like Predator versus Punisher makes sense, and of course, I'm glad they added Kraven the Hunter because he is a hunter and he does kill. It just kind of makes sense instead of being Predator versus Spider-Man, it should have been Predator versus Kraven the Hunter. Leave Spider-Man out of it entirely. I'm sorry, it does not work. Predator against Black Panther does make sense because push over the shove, Black Panther wouldn't have no problem taking out a life if he has to. Not that he would make it his first go-to, but if push comes to shove, he will have no problem. It's kind of like with Wonder Woman. It's like she would rather not kill anybody, but if she has no alternative and needs to neutralize a serious threat, she has no qualms doing it because they're warriors. It's just like, I don't know, they're just kind of like throwing things out there and without no forethought of it making sense and having the some substance to back it up. It's like, oh, we got the Predator license, let's throw everything in. It's like with outside of Wolverine, no rhyme or reason. And like I said, Predator kills the Marvel Universe. It's like you gotta nerf a lot of the Marvel characters in order to make it fair. Which is stupid. In any case, that was Predator versus Wolverine. So, we're getting relatively back into like regular comics, aside from December where I'll have a holiday comic prepared. But yeah, I wanted to make sure I get this up before Halloween because it's only 3 days away. But let me know in the comments below what you think of Predator vs. Wolverine. Have you been reading the other Predator vs. Marvel comics? Because the first Predator vs. Wolverine, at least Predator vs. Wolverine, and then the first Predator vs. Batman. Sorry. The first Predator vs. Batman are like the best Predator vs. comics that I've read. Of course, there's Predator vs. Alien, which is also like, okay, makes sense. But I haven't read those comics. And you really they made a lot of those, so there's got to be at least a handful that are actually good that probably have to research to make sure, okay, which one are the best ones, because I rarely like reading slop. Anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow, getting back to some more games. Well, no, I have 2 final movie reviews I want to do before Halloween, which is the first Halloween movie as well as Young Frankenstein, which I haven't seen that one before, so it was a good watch. So I'll give my overall thoughts tomorrow and then get back to playing some games. But in any case, I will see you guys soon. Take care. Peace.